you have your license on you?
Yeah, but you don't need it.
So we do.
Yeah,
No, you don't.
we absolutely do,
No,
sir.
that's a negative, man. You're not going to get it.
Please don't interfere with the investigation because they won't have to put you in jail.
Take me to jail.
Let me explain to you.
I will sue the shit out of you guys.
Are you
There is
gonna
no
let me
crime
explain?
committed.
Give us
You
your
understand?
ID.
I don't need to give you my ID. I didn't do nothing. There's no
Okay,
crime
go ahead, turn
committed.
off.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Car to Car. I'm Ramon.
And hi, I'm Dana, and today we will discuss the question, why do some officers escalate when citizens challenge them verbally? Ramon, what are your thoughts?
I think it's one of those things where officers are taught to always be in control of every situation and to not let situations get out of hand. And I think, especially in today's time where you have more people learning their rights or knowing their rights, I think one of the worst things that officers don't want to hear is, I know my rights, which is not a bad thing. You want the citizenry to know their rights. It's just sometimes they don't know how to act when they say they know their rights because they feel like they have more rights than they do. And so I think it's a challenge. Police officers may feel it's a challenge to their authority, especially if someone's boastfully saying that they know their rights and they're loud and they're not letting us get a word in edgewise. And so I think police officers kind of take it personal as opposed to de-escalating. One of the major things that we're taught that we probably need to do more of in training is truly learning how to de-escalate. And so, and not taking personal that some people don't like your presence even when they call you, or upset when you pull them over and push back when you say that they ran a light or they were speeding. So I think it's a lot of probably ego that probably goes into it, a lot of how we were trained, or even just thinking, man, if they're this aggressive, if they're this boastful about our interaction, what are they hiding? So I think there's a lot of nuances to it, but I think probably the majority of it is ego or us being trained to stay in control of every situation.
Yeah, and I think both of those definitely have their place as far as, because at the end of the day, you want to get compliance, but compliance through de-escalation, explaining the actions. But at some points, when, say, a person is verbally saying, no, I'm not going to do something, that they say, I advise you, you're under arrest, and you say, no, I'm not going, that's a verbal challenge. But I'm definitely going to escalate one stop up because, at that time you're going to go to jail. So hard way, nice way. So, but in just regular casual conversations where someone is challenging in a so-called non-threatening way, I think the officer should spend more time to try to de-escalate verbally as well on an equal footing.
No, I agree. And I think a lot of these situations too, I don't realize how many people have mental illness, and this is not making an excuse for citizens at all, but there's a lot of people that have a lot of emotional things that are going on with them that police officers are probably not the best equipped to deal with, but because we come in contact with it, we need to do a better job of understanding it and looking at other ways as opposed to outright aggression, or you will do what I say, or I am going to stay in command, I am going to control this situation, as opposed to, again, like you said, de-escalating and saying, okay, how can I best handle this situation with the least amount of force, with the least amount of aggression? Because if we start up here with them, there's nowhere else to go. We're up there. So we have to, if someone's yelling and screaming, and what do we have to, we're taught what, verbal judo. So we got to use it. We're paid to get yelled at, fussed at, cussed at. That's what we get paid at. We don't get paid to get shot or killed, but some of those things come with the job. But so we have to understand that, probably 75 to 80% of the time, depending on what community you work in, you're going to see people at their worst. And so if you go into it understanding, okay, I'm going to see people at their worst, or people don't like to get pulled over, they don't like to get tickets, understanding that kind of should disarm the police officer as far as them taking personal that somebody's upset.
It's true. And I think sometimes police officers don't realize when you think about your tools on your tool belt, your gun, your taser, your pepper spray, your asp, and the best weapon you have is your communication skills. That's the best one. That can de-escalate or escalate something. Like literally, when they say life is death is in the tongue, and sometimes that causes that is true. So just utilize that tool, um, fine tune it, and when time is allows, let that be the first tool, first primary tool that you use, and spend some time with it.
I think so. And I think if officers go back and look at their body worn cameras and see how situations escalated or what happened in a scene to escalate it, it's 9 times out of 10 is going to be our presence, our um, way to push forward on things where we should have given it a little bit more time. I look at a lot of these shootings or fights that police officers get in, or just traffic stops where police officers get hurt. And so, if you give yourself a little bit more time, give yourself a little bit more distance, wait for backup, you know, do things together in situations as opposed to individualize, I think a lot of police officers, a lot less police officers will be hurt. I think situations will end better. And I got to say this to citizens. I think that a lot of citizens, if you look at how you treat a police officer once a police officer stops you or comes to your house, and think about, okay, how would I want, if I was a police officer, how would I want this person to act, or how would I want this person to talk or respond to me? And you do that, I think it'll go a long way. Just look at it from the officer's perspective sometime as opposed to your own individual perspective, because I think there's two sides to it. It's not just the officers are always wrong. you know, I think two things could be true. The situation that the citizen find himself in is wrong. The police officer has a right to engage, and then once the police officer engages, it goes left because of the police officer's actions, or it goes left because of the citizen's actions. So I think that as uh, the police citizen relationship needs to evolve to us understanding each other, understanding how uh, different communities feel about the police, or and so trying to make sure we bridge the gap as opposed to saying, I'm going to be in charge of the situation no matter what.
I agree. And my last comment is that I think police and the citizens, I know police and citizens want the same things. It's in an interaction. They both want to be safe. They both want respect, for sure. And they both want to be treated as an individual. So don't tell me that that police officer did this and that police officer did that. That's why I'm talking to you that way. That police officer is his own individual, her own individual person. So treat them accordingly to the interaction that you have. So if everyone treats everyone with respect, talk to people as if you want someone to talk to you, and everyone is safe, I think the interaction will go a-okay.
I agree. That's all I got.
That's all I have. So we'll leave it right there with another episode of Car to Car Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and give us your feedback. Till next time.